Had no intentions of doing a live feed today. I was just going to take the whole day off, toward the studio down. I filmed a bunch yesterday, as I had told you guys I was going to before we did the live feed yesterday. But something has happened. Something has happened that was brought to my attention, and I already commented on it on Instagram. And we just kind of gotta, sometimes you gotta call the BS out where you find it. And when some more people show up, we're going to talk about it. The thumbnail that you guys saw is part of what we're going to talk about. So I want to wait until we get a few people here, because this has been a well-known thing with knife designers and knife makers and things like this that go to Blade Show. Hey, your knife is on the shelf to get its final review. It has made its way to the final review shelf. Bladed Ginger. So if you guys follow the knife community, you know that I've probably talked about this in the past. I'm a knife designer. I designed a knife called the Stonefish, and in 2019, it got entered into Best New Tactical Fixed Blade at Blade Show West. And this was the first time that I put any stock in what I'm about to tell you guys. So my knife lost. It took second place, which I wasn't even expecting my knife to be entered. Sorry about the shakiness, but we're not on a tripod. I had no intention. I didn't enter my knife into any categories at Blade Show West in Portland, Oregon, but the company that made it for me did. And it was We Knife Company. And so they entered it into Best New Tactical Fixed Blade, because that's a good category for my fixed blade design, because it was a tactical knife. And it took second place, which I can't complain, but it took second place to the SOG Seal Pup. Now keep in mind, this is 2019. I was issued a SOG Seal Pup in 2004. So how is that the best new tactical fixed blade? It's not. It's been around for 20 plus, it's been around for like 20 years. And there's been this long-standing thing that people talk about. Let me see who else is here. If you guys are here, drop a comment, hit the like button, hit the three little dots and hit a like button, or hit the like button on this, because there's 6 of you here and 0 likes. So at any rate, at Blade Show in Atlanta, they had most innovative design, right? It was an award for the most innovative design. And it went to Spyderco for their PM2. Now, granted, it was the PM2 Salt, which is a new version of that knife, but it's not a new design, because this knife came out in 2010. How is that the most innovative design of 2024 when it's been around since 2010? The PM2. Now, just no different than the military. There was a paramilitary. This is the military too. It's not a new design. It's a reiteration of an existing design. This would not, this I would say could not be entered into the best new design category, right? However, the PM2 took the most innovative design. Now, I can't get upset with Spyderco, because I know that these awards drive sales. I know this. But the fact is, there's been a long-standing thing that when people see your design and they're like, well, your design lost to this, well, you didn't spend enough money. And I was like, what do you mean you didn't spend enough money? And somebody told me that basically the way it works, if you spend enough money with Blade magazine, like for advertising and things like this, it has a major effect on your standing in the awards. So I am going to garner some hate on this, because I went on Spyderco's post on Instagram, and I'm doing this here. Now, don't get me wrong. Sal, extraordinary businessman. He's capitalizing on something he understands. He's getting this award, and it's going to drive sales, because people will see that they won this award, right? I can't fault him for that. But the knife community needs to understand that there's probably a lot more innovative designs out there than a 14-year-old design that has been rehashed with a new steel and a new handle pattern. That is not innovation. That is evolution. There's a difference. Innovation would be is if they designed an entirely new knife and a new steel and a new handle material and a new lock mechanism. That's innovation. And it's really frustrating. So I love Spyderco these days. They're doing a great job, but they're not innovating. They're staying true to designs that they've already done. That's not innovation. That's evolution. Adding a new steel, changing a lock mechanism, making a different style pocket clip is not being innovative. That is simply keeping up with innovations that are already out there. Coming up with new materials, that's innovation. That's what drives the knife industry. What they're doing is reactionary, which is not driving, which is not innovation. It's just really frustrating because I know that not just me, but several other knife makers have seen this. It's definitely detrimental because it hurts new designers and it hurts new companies. And if you guys are watching, there's 3 little dots in the corner of your live feed that allows you to drop a like because there's 18 of you and you have not done that yet. And that's what pushes these live feeds up. So if you agree with what I'm saying, drop a like. You can drop a dislike too, because to tell you the truth, I don't fucking care. An interaction with a video is an interaction with a video. The thing that irritates me is all these Spyderco fanboys, and it's a toxic fan base. It definitely is a toxic fan base with the Spyderco boys. It's definitely detrimental. And if you go in and if you say something that is factual, regardless, the fanboys are going to be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Look what they did with this. And it's not just this and that. And I was like, no, it's simply a PM2 with different handle scales, maybe some different internals, and a better steel. If you like that steel, I personally don't like MagnaCut. I don't like it at all. So, and it's not that it's not a good steel. It's just not a steel I like. 3 little dots, hit the like button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. That is the cost, that is the fee for enjoying my live feed, is that you just hit the like button. That's all I ask. So it's just definitely something that pushes people away from wanting to participate in Blade Show. What's going to happen is we had a knife show that used to be an incredible show. It was the Gathering, the USN Gathering. It was an incredible show. I had a blast when I went to USN in Vegas. The Usual Suspects Network is a great knife show. Well, it used to be. The problem is now what they've done is the way that they did things and the way that Blade is going to go as well, and it's going to be like a lot of gun shows. You're going to drive away the actual knife companies, because why am I going to spend this money to be there if you're not going to provide us with a fair playing field? And you're going to benefit, like other companies that aren't doing innovation and aren't doing the things that I'm doing are going to win this award anyway. Why would I want to be there? USN now has become a gear and patch show. The last person I talked to is like, patches and stickers. It's all you fucking saw. You didn't see another goddamn thing. No one was there from knife companies. These things will ruin the knife industry, because if you see that people are getting awards that are definitely not warranted. 2010 was the release of the Paramilitary 2. But like I said, that's the PM2, just like the Military 2. If one of you guys wants to let me know when the first original Paramilitary was released, that would be cool, because the fact is, reissuing a design with modifications should not allow you to win an award for new design or any of those things. So please, guys, drop a like. There's 20 of you here. Like, what have I got to do to get you guys to drop a like? All I'm asking you to do is something for free. I'm not even asking you to drop a super chat. Drop a like so we get more people here. And more interaction on this. It's weird and BS situation. I was asked why I didn't enter, and I told them I knew I wouldn't win. Yeah, You know you're not going to win. When I asked the guys at We Knife, I didn't get butthurt when my design did not win Best New Tactical Knife. I didn't think it would. I'm surprised it was even entered. I didn't know they had entered me in a category for a contest. And I wasn't upset that I lost. It's what was upsetting was I lost to a design that had been around since before my daughter was born. The SOG Seal Pup came out. I remember seeing him at the Navy Exchange well before I was ever issued one. I wasn't upset about losing. I was upset about losing to a knife that had been around since I came out, I saw him in the exchange, and the SOG Seal Pup came out. I was out here in San Diego for school while I was still in the military. I was here for a school, and the SOG Seal Pup was in the exchange, and that was 2002. And so that knife design should never have won. When you could buy one in 2002 at the Navy Exchange, that knife design should never have won an award for Best New Design in 2019. That's all I'm saying. I'm not upset that I lost the award back then. I'm upset of how I lost it. I guarantee there was other knives that were better than my design. But the knife that took it was not a new design. It's no different. Like I said, most innovative design of 2024 is a design that was reissued as the PM2 in 2010, and I don't even know when the original one came out. Once again, guys, 3 little dots will allow you just click on the 3 little dots on the corner of your live feed, and it lets you drop a like because there's 24 of you here, and the fee for entry to the live feed is a like. So it's frustrating because I know there are so many more innovative designs that are out there. There were so many better new designs that were out there. You know why I'm not upset? Like everybody's like, oh, you're upset. My design, this was 2019. My design was the Stonefish. People were like, oh, are you trying to say that this one should have won Best New Innovative Design? No, I'm not. You know why? Because these were done as custom knives years before this ever came out as a production knife. So no, I don't think that this one should have won. You know why? Because it should have been disqualified because it's not a new innovative design. It is not a great knife. I will admit that, guys, it was haircut time. So everybody, I saw one of my buddies today after I stopped my buddy's house. He came by to grab something. My other friend stopped by, and I had my hat off, and he goes, "What's going on, Leukemia Skywalker?" So it's not frustrating. Like I said, that ship sailed. My knife didn't win. It still sold okay. It's still a really good design. People still seem to like it. That ship sailed. But guys that are just coming into the industry and they are being innovative, it's just I guarantee it's soul crushing. There were people at that show that actually had innovations, guaranteed, that were new designs, that were things that really could change the knife industry, could bring new things to the knife industry. And they see that Spyderco wins that award that they were entered for with a design that they released 14 years ago. How is that fair to knife makers? How is that fair to, oh guys, we got a problem here. Somehow we've lost our power to my device. Give me a second. You may lose audio for a second. There we go. Did you guys lose audio? I love the Elementum. I like the Elementum, but I never understood the hype around it. The Elementum's a really good knife. The fixed blade Elementum is a good knife. It's not a knife that I love. I like the Elementum. I like the handles on the Elementum. That's one of the really, really good things. So, it's unfair. It's unfair to. It's unfair. It takes away the credibility of the magazine and the show. It's like now you see, like it's a little, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. You're seeing that the money pulls the strings, and you're seeing people win awards they shouldn't have won, right? Now, when we went to Blade Show West in Long Beach, my knife, my second, one of my other designs got entered into Best New Tactical Fixed Blade. That's what I'm saying. It shouldn't count. That's PM2 is not a new design. It's a PM. So at any rate, back to what I was saying, like it takes away any of the credibility that that magazine has. It takes away any of the credibility that those companies that won have, because everybody looks at it now as like, yeah, they bought that award. Because technically they did. There's no other explanation for it. So there are some categories that are fair judgments. Best new custom knife, best custom knife. These ones, like custom knife makers, those ones, I watched the judging for those and it was great. But back to, I had a second knife that was entered, Artisan Cutlery entered my Sea Snake knife in the best tactical fixed blade. And I walked over and I was like, oh, Bob Terzuola's new design with Civivi is in there. And I was like, I'm not going to win. I already knew. And they're like, oh, I was like, I don't know why you guys even did that. There's a Terzuola. I don't know why anyone entered in that thinking that they were going to beat a Bob Terzuola design. And so I called Bob. Bob wasn't at the show the day of the judging. And I called Bob. I was like, hey, your knife won. And I goes, oh, congratulations. I was like, yeah, they put mine in. And I told everybody, I was like, when I came in, they're like, hey, did you check out the judging and see if your knife won? I was like, I don't need to. I already know who won. They're like, oh, did somebody tell you? I was like, no, there was a Bob Terzuola on that shelf next to my knife for the judging. I already knew what knife was going to win that. No one's going to beat a Bob Terzuola design. Good day, Boke. That award, Spyderco, had me baffled. Huge fan of the brand, but the knife is old, and the steel isn't exactly new and innovative anymore. That's what I'm saying. And guys, if you agree with what I'm saying, 3 little buttons in the corner of your screen allows you to drop a like on this and let me know that you like what I'm saying. I don't even pay attention anymore to the awards at Blade Show, except for a couple, like Best New Maker. That's one that Brian Terzuola, or I'm gonna say Brian Nadeau won 1 year. I'm not even going to knife shows anymore, guys, to tell you the truth. They blew that. Spyderco won, and they didn't. They won it with a 14-year-old design. And it just shows that, like, they don't care. It's a lot like what you see in politics. They're doing it out in the open, and they're like, they think you're too dumb to see it. And it doesn't matter which side of politics you're on. I'm not trying to spark a political debate. Both sides do it, and they think you're too dumb to notice it. Don't fall for it. Guys, I went to Starbucks on my way. When was it? Yesterday morning? On my way home. Yesterday morning from work. Anyway, on my way home from work, I stopped by Starbucks because I wanted coffee. I knew I had to stay up till late, and so I stopped by Starbucks. Are you guys ready for this? I got there, and 20 minutes later, still did not have my order. I'm like, 20 fucking minutes to pour hot water over crushed beans. And I'm like, what the fuck? I told him I want my money back. Cancel my order and give me my money back. I'm like, oh no. I was like, nope, cancel my order. I'm not sitting here a minute fucking longer. I will drive home and it will be faster for me to drive home and make my own goddamn coffee than to wait in this line, because I was not even close to being time for my order. It's the same thing as the company of the year being one who sponsored the show. Yeah. I mean, you pull up your pants, Spade magazine, your corruption is showing. It happens. And that's why, I do not even go, I don't even have any plans to go to any knife shows. I'm so fed. Like, the last knife show I went to was pretty good. It's a local knife show. It's a California custom show. It's run by Sacco over at Recon One. It's a good show. They have a Friday night blade affair, But I'm also over the fact that it's now become a thing where people go to just buy a $15,000 knife and then sell it for 40 to some collector overseas. They're going as proxies and they come in with a big fucking drug dealer wad of cash. So it's just become a thing that just really, all right, Fukudusi, the company that sponsors, I think if a company sponsors the show, like if Spyderco was the show sponsor, they should not be eligible for any awards. It removes any thought that there's any impropriety. And as a matter of fact, I don't think that they should even do the awards anymore. They should do a few, but most of these awards, there's so many awards at a Blade Show. If you've ever been to a Blade Show, now I've never been to Blade Show Atlanta, but I was at Blade Show West 3 times out here on the West Coast. And I'm going to tell you right now, all 3 times, I was like, there's too many contests. There are. The custom knife maker ones, they're cool. Those are a good thing. Atlanta is 3 hours from me, and I got paid to work. It made $500 and some more design collaborations to you, possibly Vosteed. Well, I've got a good relationship with Vosteed, guys. So if your design comes through Vosteed, let me know, and I'll make sure I get one. My design with KATSU, I think they're working on prototypes right now. So, but yeah, I didn't, like, people are like, oh, you don't want to go to Blade Show Atlanta? I was like, one, I don't like people. This is a good interaction for me. I can interact with you guys, but I don't have to be close to you. I don't have to actually, I can interact with you in my preferred method of interaction, which is we just stay the fuck away from each other. I get such anxiety. I have PTSD. I have so much anxiety when I go to a knife show. Yes, people in general fucking suck, and I'm perfectly fine with not being around a lot of people. And there you go, Pete Davidson. Lost faith in Blade magazine years ago when they just seemed like an ad rag with no real info. Let me see. Of the knives in question, a real shame, as it was hard to get and expensive in Japan, in Australia. Yeah, it's who's Toyota and tools. I am not a fanboy. I get really frustrated. There's knives I like and there's companies I like, but I don't. I'll make sure I've got my. Oh, okay. I just made sure I had my microphones all on. I'm not a fanboy. Like I don't white knight for a company. Like I'm friends with the guys at Ferrum Forge, but if they're doing stupid shit, I'm going to call it out. I'm definitely not a fan of Blade Magazine or their editors or any of that because it's definitely, it's a suspect thing. I will say I'm as close to being a fanboy for Microtech as I am with any company, and I still have problems with their knives. I've owned several of them that like I got rid of because I just couldn't justify. I had the, what's the one with the, so you have the stitch, the MSI. I had the MSI in. I borrowed it from a guy and I didn't even do a video. I'm like, I don't like this. I said I really don't like this. What is this? They need to have people walking by to vote on it. If the design has been out for more than 5 years, then it shouldn't be allowed. If the design has been out for a year, it should not be able to compete in any of the new categories. Do you have any advice for a new company coming onto the scene? This is going to sound kind of like it's going to sound like something that I'm going to say because I want this to happen. But new companies, standard advertising is not the way to go anymore. Social media advertising is the way to go. So if you've got a run of 1,000 knives, pick some influencers. Pick some influencers that you think can do justice to your knife, that you think are going to appreciate the design, and then allow them to give their honest opinion. And if they have input, especially if it's somebody like me or some of the other guys that have been knife makers for years, if there's an input from them, don't get bent when they have input. Like if you send them a prototype, Let them review the prototype, let them review it honestly, and then look at what they say objectively and say, I want to incorporate those things. If you have more than one reviewer, more than one person critique a specific thing, say it's the pocket clip and the way the pocket clip feels or the way the knife rides in pocket. Don't get so invested in your design that you don't think about changing those things. If you send a knife out to someone for an honest review and they give it to you and then you get upset about the things they've said, then you probably shouldn't do that design. If you're that invested in a design, oh, hey, guess what? I have no problem with this. If you don't have a problem, if you are too invested into your design to be able to take constructive criticism, then you probably shouldn't put that knife out because people are going to tear it apart. There are going to be people that hate your design. The best way I can say to do that, like I said, find people that one would be like, if you know that there's a guy that loves like recurves and striking lines, that guy's probably going to give your knife good marks in a video. It's a marketing, it's a way of marketing without actually marketing. So for you to run an ad in Blade Magazine is going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. But if you're having a knife made production, and we all know that the production cost of a knife versus the cost you have to recoup for your time and effort and everything that's going to go into your sales. Say you're doing something as an OEM and you're releasing it and doing the work. Means that there's a lot of cost involved in what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to QA those items. You're going to have to do the shipping. You're going to have to take the time to take the orders and fulfill those orders. That's where the cost of that knife goes up and starts getting into $200 and $300. But knowing that your production cost for those knives is so low, you could send out 10 or 15 of those knives for the price that you would have paid for an ad in a magazine, well below the cost of what you would have paid for an ad in a magazine. Even if you tell those people to keep the knife, which a lot of times I tell companies, I just want something that I can review. I'll send it out. Send me something that was something that was like a production prototype, or the one that you carried that was the final, like the alpha build. Send that out. Like I'll tell them, I was like, I don't even want a free knife. I just want the knife to do a review. I want something that I'm not going to have qualms in using, and maybe do a pass around. That you're going to get way more traction from people that watch channels than you are from, you're going to get more traction with social media influence than you are from the few people that are reading that magazine. I have not looked at an issue of Blade magazine in probably 20 years. But when I do one of these live feeds, I typically wind up with between 900 and 1,400 viewers on this. If I have your knife in hand, like this Microtech amphibian, anywhere between 900 and 1,400 people just saw that. That's like, it almost makes it free. That would be my advice. The typical, it's like mainstream media. It's dead. Mainstream marketing is dead. If you are trying to go brick and mortar, like paper printed magazines, it's a waste. If you can get an ad run on Instagram, do that. But I'll tell you, like running ads on like Rumble and things like that. And I know that YouTube doesn't like when you mention Rumble. I have a Rumble channel. Because there's people that just won't watch YouTube. If you can run ads on platforms affordably, that's going to be way better for you than it is going to be if you tried to put it in a printed magazine, Blade magazine. I'll I'll tell you another thing. So you guys know the chick, I can't think of her name, the chick that was on Naked and Afraid. She does stuff for him. You always see her. She's like, why can't I think of her name? Melissa Backwoods. And I've talked to her. She's okay. She's a decent person. Todd Carr's here. Howdy, Todd. We had talked a long time about her reviewing one of my, like her just checking out one of my designs. And she was all on board with it, right? All on board with it. I ran into her and I had told her, I was like, well, I'm going to be at Blade Show West. So maybe I can just give it to you. She wouldn't even touch it. She's like, sorry, I can't take it. You have to run it through our publicity team, get it approved, and then you have to pay whatever the cost is for me to even review that knife. And I'm like, so for me to even get you to look at this knife, I was like, look, I understand now you work, she had just started working for Blade Magazine. She's like, I'm not allowed to touch it. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's when it really hit me that all these people were talking about, if you want to get a good mark in Blade Magazine. And I was like, it's true. It's all paid content now. So, guys, okay, so Party Bro Radical, there are 3 dots. Guys, if you're enjoying it, there's 3 dots in the corner of your screen. One of these, hit it, and it'll allow you to drop a like, because there's 48 of you here and only 15 likes. So yeah, she's now 100% a paid influencer. They pay her, they tell her what she's allowed to put up, and that is determined by how much the company is paying them. So if you pay the company enough, Melissa will put your knife on social media. This is why, as much as I might not like her, was it Little Fit Devil? That's part of the reason, as much as I like, I'm friends with a lot of people at Microtech. I'm friends with Tony Marfione. The reason that she left Microtech was she was locked in and could only talk about on social media, only talk about. So that's why I like doing my videos. I'm beholden to no one. If a company sends me a knife, and people are like, oh, if a company sends you a knife, of course you're going to give it a good mark. That's not true. I am much more inclined to be critical of a free knife. You know why? I'm not invested in it. I'm much more inclined to give this knife that I paid $246 for a much higher mark, because that way I'm blind to it. That's the reason you guys aren't going to get a final review of this for a while. I'm still in the honeymoon phase with this knife. When you buy a knife, there's a period of time where you can't see anything wrong with it. Same reason that this one, I still say this is my knife of the year, and I say it is just shy of perfect. But I am past the honeymoon period on this knife, and I found a couple minor things that are wrong with this knife that I was completely blind to before. When a knife comes in free, I don't have that honeymoon period. I'm not invested in not seeing anything wrong with that knife. If you send me a free knife, I will tear the shit out of it, because I didn't fucking buy it. I didn't spend my money on this. I didn't spend my money on it. But when you spend your money on it, you definitely don't want to see anything wrong with that knife. This knife came to me as a gift. I saw the flaws with it the second it showed up. I don't see any flaws with this knife, and I know that that's not the case. This knife has got me enamored because it's new and it's mine, and I bought it and I'm proud of what I paid for. You're much more inclined to get an honest opinion out of me on a free knife, especially when I tell you, like, you have no input. Like, I tell companies this, like, hey, we want you, hey, would you be interested in checking out our new knife? And I'm like, 3 things. Yes, I would love to. 2, I don't need a free knife. I've got more knives than I could ever want. And 3, you have 0 input on how this review goes. 0. You don't get to tell me what you want me to look at. You don't get to tell me that I can't say certain things about this. And if you have qualms with any of those, if you have qualms with that 3rd one, keep the fucking knife. Most companies that you deal with have got faith in their product. And are like, we don't care. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Just tell us what you don't like. So we have, and when a company tells me, like, that's fine, tell us what you don't like so we can work our way towards getting the things that you do want. Chris, are you a paying member? Chris, when did you become a paying member? Well, obviously, you're a new paying member. I see that because I can tell by the color of the little logo. If you have faith in your product, you're going to allow people to definitely do whatever. Last night, all right. Thank you very much. So I do have memberships and there's benefits. I am working on doing a giveaway. I was going to do it tonight and I kind of feel like I have a cold and I worked 7 days straight so that I could take my daughter's graduation off. And I was busy both those days. I took those 2 days off. And then I was off last night and tonight, and I have to be back at work tonight. And I definitely did not want to do anything today. I filmed a bunch of videos last night. I did a live feed with you guys. You saw I was setting up the studio for filming. I just wanted a day off because I haven't had one in about 14 days. So I love honest reviews. You critiquing my Geo made me happy. It made me really look at it for the V2. It's going to be neat. Yeah, I mean, and as long as you can take constructive criticism, that's how reviews are supposed to work. And there's companies that I will never purchase from again. There's companies I will never purchase from again. There is a company that I really wanted one. And I talked to the owner of the company several times. We're going to get to it. There's two companies. And I was like, man, I want to get one of their knives. And I had one of their knives. And one of their knives came in as, I want to say 2021 was knife of the year. Because I used to do a premium knife of the year and a budget knife of the year. And it was the Hinderer XM18 flipperless, the 3-inch blade. I will never own a Hinderer. Ever. And if I owned a Hinderer, I would get rid of it. Reason being, Rick Hinderer tried to sue Brian over at Transparent Blades. Now, is Brian kind of, I don't do it that way anymore. I may this year, I'm not sure yet. I don't necessarily do a budget, and I think it's just going to be knife of the year these days because there's been some budget knives that wound up winning knife of the year. But Rick tried to sue Brian over at Transparent Blades. Now, is Brian a little bit controversial? Yeah. Has Brian really kind of screwed customers in the past by taking so much time off and doing things? Yes. Is Brian making new designs? No. Brian, but still, he was not wrong. And Rick tried to sue him. And then after that, I was like, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. You can't have honest reviews and an honest review process if you're afraid that you're going to get sued for something you say about a knife. Something truthful. The only thing that Brian said was that the HRC on that steel was soft, and it is. Another company, I will never own a Medford. Like people are like, people are like, oh, what was it they were talking about when Greg Medford, like Greg Medford's not racist. He just doesn't like Chinese knives. Greg Medford is racist. He picked the most racist image that he could possibly have. Is it his right to say that and do that? Yes. It's also my right to say, I fucking don't approve and I will never buy one of his knives. Ever. Because the fact is, they're like, oh, he was saying that about Chinese companies. I was like, no, he wasn't. He tried to say that after, but he picked the most racist image possible for that and put it in a picture. But I had already decided I was not going to buy one of Rick Hinder's knives, or one of Greg Medford's knives, because Greg's an asshole, and I knew it. Allow me to tell you a story. Greg Medford was a Marine. Or is a retired or ex-Marine, but Marines are always Marines. That's their caveat. So we're at a knife show up in Portland. It was Blade Show West. Greg Medford had his table there. Two very obvious service members approached his table. And they waited. You could tell, like they waited. There was other people at the table they could have talked to. And Greg was having one of his typical pissy, shitty, Greg Medford, my sales aren't doing what I want kind of day. I'm going to throw a temper tantrum kind of day, because Greg is Greg Medford is a pissy little bitch. And if you've ever been to a knife show where Greg Medford is there, everybody knows that Greg Medford is a pissy little bitch and will throw a temper tantrum at some point during the show when things aren't going the way he wants them to or hoped that they had. So at any rate, these service, it was 2 or 3. Nico was there too, my little buddy Nico. They were obviously waiting to talk to Greg because he's a Marine and they want to talk to the Marine about the Marine's knives. And he came up and they were wanting to talk to Greg. Hey, we wanted to talk to you. He's like, hey, I'm not here to answer your fucking questions. Either buy a knife or fucking leave. And I was going to try and film with Greg because it was the first time I had ever had a chance to actually film with Greg. And I was like, I saw that and these guys, you could just see it on their face. They're like, fuck this dude. This dude's a dick. Let's go. And I fucking packed my shit and turned around and wound up going over and talking to Lynn Thompson for 20 minutes off camera, because I was like, I can't believe what I just fucking saw. So, guys, there's 3 little buttons. There's 42 of you here, 19 likes. Hit those 3 little buttons, bring it down, hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down. I don't care. And I was like, man, I just can't do it. Another knife company I will never own a knife from again and sold the one I had from is Jake Hoback. So I'm friends with Jason Browse. Jason Browse, at one point, was having stuff made offshore, parts, bringing them into his shop, doing the final machining, doing the final drill, almost like he was having parts OEM'd so he could do, what is this? He did the same with you. Yeah, Greg needs to learn that it's not hard to be nice to people. Here's the thing. If Greg was doing all this by himself, that'd be fine, but he's got employees. He puts every one of his employees' welfare at risk when he does that. Like I've never seen a knife maker other than Will Moon that was out to destroy their own company. So at any rate, Jake Hoback found out that Jason Browse, my friend Jason Browse, was having parts manufactured in China, shipped to the United States to be finished and assembled, and it's almost mid-tech, right? It is absolutely legal if you add 51% of the overall value of an item to then turn around and say that it's American made, because more than 51% of the overall cost of that item was accrued in the United States. And I got news for you, it takes a long time to do finish and assembly on a knife. Guaranteed that it was more than 51%. But Jake Hoback found out, and he led the charge to ruin Jason Browse's business. And he almost did. Fast forward 7, 8, 9 years now. Jake Hoback had designs that were made in China. Not parts, not partial, not some of the stuff's made here, some of the stuff's made here, and we put it together here. Like, they came off a boat in a box and went straight to vendors. He never once corrected his vendors when they were selling those as American made. He's like, well, I never told them they were American made. And I was like, motherfucker, you didn't tell them that they weren't American made. A lie of omission is every bit the lie as an active lie to cover things up. Quartermaster designs. Our stuff's made here. No, it's not. M3 Tactical Tech. Our stuff's made here. No, it's not. I've seen the invoices of things coming from Best Tech to you with images of designs that you sent to them that then you're saying is American made. It's all bullshit. Those are companies that I would never do business with, would never purchase with. I would rather work with a company that is all done in China, like We Knife Company or any of these other companies, I would rather work with them and just go ahead and say, yeah, my stuff's made offshore. It's cheaper. It's every bit as good. It's affordable. It's a good product. I just can't afford to have it made in the United States. I would rather do that than the bullshit that some of these other companies are doing. What is this? Is Kershaw's stuff actually USA made? Yeah, Kershaw's an American company. They used to make a lot of stuff in the here in the United States. What did Pete? The more I hear about this guy, the more this guy's a real jerk. Oh, I thought you were talking about my rants. I thought somebody said something about like my rant being retarded or retarded. What about the dark operations? Remember them? Dark operations? No, I don't. I tried to have some knives made in the United States, and I'm not going to lie to you. I would have Greg Medford make one of my knives because while Greg is a dickhead, and Greg is a pissy little bitch at shows, and Greg is a complete and utter racist, in my opinion. Like he's allowed to do that. Free speech. If he wants to say racist things, I just don't have to agree with them. That's his prerogative. If he wants to do that and allow people to have that opinion of him, hey, that's on him. However, Greg Medford is probably one of the most talented machinists in the country. And knives that he has done for other companies have been the best production versions of those knives ever made. Mick Strider's, the Strider knives that were coming out of Greg Medford's shops, the best Striders that have ever hit the market. But just because you're talented doesn't mean you're not an asshole. The fact that you're a good machinist does not detract from the fact you're a shit person. I would go, but the fact is American companies are extremely expensive to work with. Way more expensive than anything offshore. And the fact is that I don't want to do OEM. I want to do a license to design. So, yeah, it's just, this is like, there's stuff in the knife industry that is just completely fucked up and shitty. And it definitely, and I'm cursing a lot and this is going to get demonetized. So if you guys do want to support, you can always drop a super chat. I would not be offended and I definitely would say thank you. But if not, please just at least hit those 3 little dots and hit the like button. That's all I'm asking. Benchmade is whipping the American-made horse to death. Benchmade is whipping the American-made horse to death, and they're about to whip their company to death. $700 for knives that are done slipshod and garbage. This is $100 less than the first Microtech I ever bought. $150, actually. This was $302. When I started buying Microtech knives in 2015, the cheapest I bought one was $410. Most of them, though, were, because they were autos, of course, they were well over $450. $302. This is better quality than the original ones that I had, and it's cheaper. Every company should be striving to provide you the best possible product at the most affordable range where they can still make a profit. You don't want to tell a company like, oh, I'm not buying that. Because companies still do have to make a profit. Like if you see a company that's charging $300 for an American-made knife of this caliber, that's a really good price, and it's an incredible knife, and it's not too expensive. Hogue is making very, very good knives in the United States at an affordable price. They're still making a profit. You can't get upset, like I'm seeing all the fast food stuff. Like companies are definitely bilking us. It's $20 some places for a Big Mac meal. That's too much. Companies are doing that. Fucking Benchmade is the McDonald's of the knife industry. They are definitely charging you way more than they should be for knives that are done better by companies that are doing them cheaper. If you were to look at a Hogue Deca versus a Benchmade bug out, you're going to get a Hogue Deca for a good bit cheaper than you are a Benchmade bug out. And if you hold the two together, the Benchmade bug out feels like shit. It feels like a garbage piece of crap gas station knife that you should not have paid what you paid for. Like if you get a Benchmade bug out, and then hold a Hogue Deca, you're going to be disappointed in your choice of purchase. Benchmade has not made a good access lock in forever. I've got a $40 knife in a knife case out there that has probably the best actual crossbar spring, like Omega spring style crossbar lock. It's got possibly the best one I've ever seen. You cannot get a Benchmade access lock to be smooth without blade play. Like if you want it to be free and smooth, you can't do it without blade play. You got to tighten the pivot down. Second you tighten the pivot down, you lose the action. It's a two-hand opener. They came out with the Anthem. Benchmade came out with the Anthem, which had a plunger style, linear spring, linear post version of the access lock. And I had to admit, really, really good. Then I found out that that's a $700 knife. I'm like, fucking why? This has the same basic lock in it that the Anthem had. Linear style, crossbar, access style lock for $300. That is done better, it looks better, it feels better, and it's a better all-around knife. Was this somebody said something in here? What was this? I don't. You know, this is not. We're not doing that. The action on the Deca is good. What do we got here? The Shark Lock. Shark Lock's a really good lock. And people, here's the thing: people shit on Chinese-made knives when it meets what they want, right? Demco's making their lives in Taiwan, like not just Chinese, offshore. We're not going to get into the whole China-Taiwan thing. It's like 5 degrees of separation. The federal government, the U.S. government doesn't acknowledge Taiwan as its own state, but that's beside the point. They're using the same company, they're using the same production facilities that some other companies are using, and those other companies get shit on. But Demco, because it was with cold steel, they get accolades of how good their knives are, and they're made in the same facility that's making some of the other knives that people are getting shit on. Like, all right, fucking way to go, you couldn't do it in America. It's like, why aren't you asking Demco and cold steel the same question? I'd be much more inclined to take a knife from Taiwan than mainland China. But like the fact is, there's a lot of knives. This one is made in Golden, Colorado. So is my Military 2. This is made in Golden, Colorado. I'm really happy about the fact that 2 of the best EDC knives that I own, way up there on the list of just incredibly good top tier EDC knives for everyday carry, for all the use you would ever need, are both American-made knives. And my favorite knife so far this year is also made in the United States. I'm not white knighting for Chinese companies. I'm just saying, as somebody else said here, you're going to shit all over a Chinese brand of knife with your Chinese-made phone. So I just saw that post and I got a little wound up. I woke up and somebody had sent it to me and I didn't read it until later. And then I made a comment and then I mulled over whether I should even say anything about it. I got called and told I was probably going to work overtime today. Like I got called and they're like, hey, can you maybe start checking your phone at about 8 o'clock? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. Like, why? And they're like, yeah, I may have to have you work on your day off. I was like, fuck. So I took the dog over to our friend's house. He's watching the dog, but I have to work overtime for pretty much most of the week this week. So I took him over to our friend's house so he could hang out with his mother and his father and his baby sister, because that's who gave us the knife. What job do I work? I run the security operations center at IQHQ in San Diego at night. I'm the swings operator for the security operations center. So I watch all the cameras and dispatch all the freak show. Where have you been? Like, hey, if you love your bug out, that's fine. I just personally think that you bought a worse version of the Hogue Deca at a much more expensive price. If you like the Benchmade bug out, get the Hogue Deca. If you like the Griptilian, get the Hogue Ritter. One, I don't like Benchmade. I don't like their business practices. I don't like what they do with customers. I don't like any of that stuff. Oh, so you know exactly what I talk about, where everybody got fucked because Spyderco walked away with a design for best new innovation for a design that they've had for more than 14 years. So it's like, I would much rather have a Hogue than a Benchmade. And the fact is, the crossbar locks that I have that run on bearings are way better than any of the ones, like, people are like, oh, washers are better. No, you're going the wrong direction. We're going to talk about that too. People who think that washers are better than bearings and think that bearing knives gum up quicker than washer knives are wrong. Bearings have a gap in there that it's very easy to run water through. You can spray it out. You can clean it up. When you get shit down in your, when you get gunk and stuff down inside your washers on a knife, you got to take that thing apart, because you're going to damage your washers. That's going to be, it's like it gets locked up. Just because you have this nostalgia of things that were in your childhood, I want you to think about how things were in your childhood and think if you really would want to go back. No internet. Only like 6 channels on TV. No YouTube. Nostalgia is a misconception. If you think that washers are better for being able to maintain and clean up, I 100% disagree with you. You're welcome to that opinion. I just think that you're wrong. You're more than welcome to your opinion. I just don't have to agree with it. I have to take my washer knives, like my Chris Reese Sebenza, I have to take that apart way more often than I have to take apart something with bearings. Because if I got something with bearings, I take this and I run it under some hot water and then drop a little bit of KPL from the top and drop it in. Or sometimes I don't even clean it. KPL does a good enough job of like keeping that grit out of the, like keeping it in suspension, like they say. But a lot of times just an extra drop will do it until I can get home and take it apart. Just started a real official job as a self-owned knife sharpener business. I've been doing it for years, just started getting paid by people. I did it for years. It's a hard way to make money, especially if you're doing it all by hand. Yeah, they get filthy. Hard-using knives, they get filthy. And it's way easier to clean up without disassembly a knife with bearings. If you got brake cleaner, brake cleaner does a great job, and then you just re-lubricate. Like, even if you don't have great lubrication, like even if you've got WD-40, that will work until you can get somewhere to put actual lubrication in it. Spray that shit with you spray it with a fucking, a thing of brake cleaner or electronics connection cleaner, something, and spray out the gunk that's in the pivot of that knife, and then just a drop or two of oil from the top. Bob's your uncle's great knife. You can't do that with a Sebenza. Now, I will say, stuff doesn't get in as easily, but once it does, it's in there. Missed the start of the talk, Benchmade Hogue talk about. Oh, it's just like companies that, Benchmade is, you'd have to rewind and go back because I talked about a bunch of stuff. Benchmade really just screws the consumer. Like at this point, they're not out to make a good knife for the money. They're out to make good money and give you the worst possible knife that they can get away with. I have not held a Benchmade that was more than $200 in years. The Benchmade 940, the only reason I own one, because I always wanted one. It's a cool knife. It's an icon. I always wanted it. It's an iconic Benchmade knife. The only reason I own one is because it was given to me as a gift. And I still don't like it. It's just, washer knives get shit trapped. Yeah, you got to take it apart. And the fact is, like, if you don't clean out a washer knife when it gets stuff in it, you're going to damage the washers, and then you've got more problems. These run on washers. I'm not going to complain too much about these. These run on washers. They're pretty good. I wish it ran on bearings. I think it would be smoother. And the fact is, you would tighten it. You'd be able to tighten it down a little bit tighter and make sure that you weren't going to have any blade play and not sacrifice the action. But it's pretty smooth. I'm not going to lie. Guys, check this out. This is something I wanted to talk about. People tell me I'm crazy for this. I'm in my living room, by the way, so I'm not out in the studio because it's a mess out there. This is the compression made easy. A lot of people say I'm crazy because I dig this. I think, and there's 44 of you guys here, if you go up in the corner, hit those 3 little dots, it'll pull a drop down, and you can like the video, which gets me more traction, and it doesn't cost you anything. The CME is a great way to add a little bit more to the compression lock. It turns it into ostensibly a button lock, but a left-handed button lock. And I never understood my left-handed buddy that told me this. He's like, I would much rather have a right-handed button lock as a left-handed person. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, he handed me a left-handed button lock. The button is here. It's so much easier to unlock a button lock knife with your index finger. And then when you add this in, you lose any of the weirdness you would get from a compression lock being on the back. And so I'm never going to own a compression lock knife that I don't put one of Justin's OCD for EDC. Justin over there, he makes them the CME, compression made easy. If you're left-handed, it's a game changer for you, because if you're left-handed, you've got to stick your thumb in pretty far and pinch it. And I can see what he's talking about. Like, I tried it because I never tried it before I put the one on this one. I never tried it to see. And if you're left-handed, like in that pinch, you're basically holding onto a very thin piece of the knife. And I almost dropped this. I was like, oh, I see what he's saying. So it gives you a better grip on it if you're left-handed. And if you're right-handed, it makes you appreciate why a left-handed person would like a right-handed button lock. Do I have any butterfly knives? No, I'm not a butterfly knife guy. Mini Electro-Proof 11. I don't. They are really, so Chu Perez, they are very tough knives. I find their designs to not, I got to turn the ceiling fan on. It's warm in here with that light bouncing down on me in my living room here. It got warm in the house today. I slept all day, so, because I work nights. I'm out of here. I'd rather be listening to Greg Medford. Well, that's just insulting. That's not even nice. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. I had a pair of 2 when they were $120. I won't buy another one because of the price. It changed because because it changed steel. The PM2 comes in a lot of different steels. This one's S90V. This one's an S90V. They've got one in Crewwear. They've got them in S30V. They've got them in MagnaCut. So I don't understand what you're saying. Like, you can still get it in the original steels. And really, the price increase, like, that's great. I don't mind if you guys don't like. I'm just saying my personal experience with Greg just leads me to down that road that, yeah, he's really talented. He's a very, very talented machinist, but he's also an asshole. No, you can still pick these up for, you can pick up the PM2 for, I want to say 145, 150. Depending on the steel, like sprint runs and specific steels can be more expensive. The military too, this was 246 total, but I got exactly what I wanted, brown micarta and crew wear. So they have a lot of different options in materials, which leads to different options in prices. So, so JD, you're asking me MagnaCut versus Maximet. I don't like either one. So Maximet is really brittle. I've seen many, like people are like, oh, you're crazy, it's not that brittle. When I was doing the sharpening and I was complaining about how brittle it is and like it chips while sharpening. And a lot of people told me I was crazy. I didn't know what I was talking about. But if you go look, there's a lot of images of people with, there's a lot of people with broken blades in Maximet because it's so brittle. And I'm not a fan of MagnaCut. Let's go. I'm going to grab my other device. I have two phones because I ran a business. You know, I had an LLC for a while. And you basically need two phones. Let's see. Well, here's the thing. Are you in the United States or you're saying you haven't seen 140? Because I don't know. People don't get blade steel. I just don't like. Let me see. I don't like the edge it takes. As someone who sharpened professionally and somebody that knows exactly what they want out of an edge, MagnaCut just doesn't give me the edge I want. It's a good steel. Don't get me wrong. It's a really, really good steel, and there's a reason why people like it. Spyderco Paramilitary 2. 265. They got a bunch of different ones. Let's see what they've got here. Maybe it was on sale when I saw it. You might be right. It may have been on sale when I saw that price. 198. Yeah, you might be right. Let's see here. How much was the one I had? Yeah, I don't see one on Blade HQ. You could be right. It could be that I might have seen it was on sale. And guys, it's a spot with 3 little dots. If you click it, you can drop a like. I would really appreciate it. It pushes this up the algorithm. Would you hit the doink if I passed it to you? Well, if we're talking about a little bit of the jazz cabbage, yeah. Matter of fact, we get done with this, I'm going to do that. Prep myself for my morning supper and go to bed early because I got to work tonight. So I should probably stop drinking coffee. Amazon is so much cheaper than Blade HQ. Problem with Amazon, I'm going to tell you this right now. Amazon is pushing products that aren't necessarily real. They do not do a very good job of policing their knockoff and counterfeit offerings on Amazon. And Amazon has been accused in Senate hearings of pushing specifically for, they basically make knockoff products for their basics lines, which are knockoffs of their own of other people's products and sell them on basic. I do have an Amazon store. I do know that people buy a lot of stuff from Amazon. I buy a lot of stuff from Amazon. You just got to be careful how you do it. I don't buy knives on Amazon unless it's some of the companies like Remet, Miguron. They don't have they have their website, but they don't sell to vendors. they only have their knives available on their website and Amazon. So typically that's the only time I would buy a knife from a company on Amazon, is if they just don't have any other option. And a lot of times you're right, you can get them cheaper on Amazon because Amazon offers them. I don't know how it works, but like I said, like if you take my Amazon store that's in the link in the description of all my videos and you buy stuff, I'm not saying buy knives there. Do I like the Native 5? I never liked the, there's most of this, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I love some Spydercos. I love the Endura series, the Police, which falls in the Endura series, the Endella, the Military, the PM2. I love those knives. Absolutely love them. They are some of the most ergonomic knives. They're not the prettiest, but you know what? I've come to appreciate them for what they are. There was a Gale Bradley knife that they did that I had for a while. Absolutely loved it. But the majority of Spyderco designs, I don't like at all. I don't find them to be comfortable. I don't like the blade shape. I don't like the things. I had a Native in XHP. It was a knife center exclusive. It was a knife center exclusive, and it was an okay knife, but I didn't like it anywhere near as much. I got to turn you guys down a little bit. I just realized I'm redlining this a little bit. There we go. Is that better? I just realized that I was really loud because I'm really close to the microphone. Amazon sell a lot of second quality. Yes, they do sell some defect stuff too. But like I just typically don't advise buying knives from Amazon because I do know, especially Cold Steel, there's a lot of knockoff Cold Steel stuff on Amazon. I prefer to go to vendors that I know are a little bit more reputable. Blade HQ, Knife Center, GP Knives, what else have I got that I would, Knives Ship Free. Those are places that I would go looking for a knife. And that's how I would recommend it as well. And that's why I have links in my videos to those. GP Knives, Knives Ship Free. What else have I got down there? Blade Binge. I have an affiliate link with them and stuff like that. Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Yeah, there you go. Smoky Mountain Knife Works. I don't have an affiliate link with Smoky Mountain Knife Works. So Smoky Mountain Knife Works is not a bad company to work with. They, like everybody I've ever talked to from there has been good. They've been knowledgeable. So should I just buy knives from a knife shop? I don't know where you're going to find a knife shop. The whole knife shop thing is kind of gone. White Mountain Knives is a good one. There's a lot of places you can buy knives. And there's a lot of places that are going to be really reputable. I just find that the anonymity of anybody can have an Amazon store and post up stuff without any verification, I find that problematic in the knife industry because we all know knockoff knives is a big thing. Cold Steel's not garbage. I like a lot of the Cold Steel knives for what they are. Like, you're not going to find many knives that are more robust than a Cold Steel knife. You really aren't. And when it comes to heat treat, Cold Steel has historically been the company that can take a garbage steel and get the most out of it. Their AUS 8, the best on America. I don't like XHP. Their XHP was incredibly good. They maximize BD1N. I don't like BD1 steel. I don't like BD1 steel. Theirs is okay. They've historically been able to take steels that are just like other companies would be thinking like, I'm not going to use that steel, and get stuff out of them that a lot of people can't get. And it is 100% heat treat. They have design issues and there's some quality control issues. There's always edge and grind issues with them. But the fact is, you're not paying as much for them as you are for some other knives, especially their fixed blades. You like Cold Steel fixed blades? Come on now. Their folding knives, yeah, okay. I'll give you a pass on that. Their fixed blades, man, some of their fixed blades are just fucking iconic. You can design your own custom knife at, yeah. Or be like me and just design your own custom knife anyway. Cold steels, even their cheaper knives are still really good. The thing is, like, their knives, like, let's say what's the one with the ring lock? The Kudu. That's an under $20 knife. That is the cheapest knife I own. I would trust that knife better as far as lockup and everything like that than I would some ZTs and any hinderer. And if you don't believe me, go watch Jared's video where he did the spine whack test on all of his hinderers, and they failed badly on their lock. We're not talking like pounding it and spine whacking it like these garbage spine whack tests that people do where they got a baton and they're just smacking the shit. Hey, most knives are going to fail that test. I watched that guy doing that to this knife, and he was like, had a stick, like a bat, like a little bat. He's like whacking it in his hand. I was like, well, of course that knife's going to fail. Why didn't you put it in a vise and just swing at it with an aluminum bat? Like, fuck, that's not a test. That's I'm going to make it fail. Spine tap is good. Spine pounding is ridiculous. As somebody asked me a question here. How do I feel about AEBL steel? If the heat treat is good, it can be a very good steel. I typically didn't like it, but that's because I never got a good heat treat. I have a fixed blade, a custom fixed blade that came to me that is in AEBL, and the heat treat on it is just incredible. The edge it takes, it is night and day from what I've had in other knives in AEBL. And so how do I feel about it? It depends on the knife. Same thing with a lot of other steels. I have had great experiences with Midway, most of my cold. I have not bought knives from Midway USA. I have bought holsters, grips, sights, lights, and things like that. But I never, you know what? I've never even really looked at Midway USA. I've never looked at their catalog looking for knives. I've always been looking something firearms related because that's what pops in my head when I think of Midway USA. But I have been told that they have knives. I just have never really went there looking for knives. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll take a look at their inventory and catalog of knives. But it's just not something I ever think of. When I think of Midway USA, I don't ever think of knives. So I've had other people say it, and I just keep forgetting. And guys, if you're here, 3 little buttons up in the corner, pull a thing down, and you can see a little icon like this. If you click on it, I'll smile. I mean, I'm going to smile anyway. What's this? What did Todd say? Somebody hit it. American Lawman. I love my cold steel knives. Cold steel knives, yeah. Cold steel knives are great. They're great, and they're cold steel knives are the gateway drug into buying much more expensive knives. They are. It's what started me. It really is. Like I didn't necessarily have a lot of cold steel knives. Somebody else did it. But I told you I would smile if you hit the like button. That's all it takes. I'm not trying to get you guys to drop super chats. If you want to, that's fine. But like, if you want to make me smile, all you do is hit the like button. At any rate, what was I getting ready to say? Oh, so not necessarily so much that I bought cold steel knives, that they were the gateway drug into the much more expensive and higher end knives. It was more the videos. I got the videos, the DVDs in the mail, right? I would get the DVDs in the mail because I forget how it started. Like I signed up for it and I got the actual physical catalogs, and I still have the DVDs here, the cold hard proof. And I watched those, and I watched those videos. And then I did have some really cool cold steel knives. I had the triple actions and things like that. And I bought those and they were great. And but then I realized that there was a lot better knives out there. And then I started sharpening knives for people for money. Even though I'd done it in the past, I really started doing that as secondary income. And I started seeing a lot of really cool knives come through. And then I started the YouTube channel and I had started buying things like Microtex. And then I made friends with custom knife makers. And then I started making knives. And it was the cold steel. And I told Lynn Thompson this, cold steel really changed the trajectory of my life, because if I hadn't started with that, I would have never quit my government job and started making knives. I would have designed knives. I would have been a wage slave for the federal government for the next 30 years, and I would have died 2 months after I retired. And I realized that there was things that I was much more passionate about than what I was doing, and I did them. And I did them for a long time. And now I have a job. I do have a job. It's nowhere near the pay that I was making when I was working for the government, but it's also nowhere near the level of bullshit that's going to give me a heart attack that I had when I worked for the government. So it definitely, in an offshoot kind of way, cold steel knives changed the trajectory of my adult life after the military. Like after I retired from the military, I just thought I got to keep working for the government. It's all I had. And I was a GS-11, which if you guys don't know, that's fairly high. You only go to 13. Like GS-13 is as high as it goes. That's a fairly high level government job. And I was getting paid quite well. For the price point, cold steels, you can't beat them. Literally lost my Recon Stout over a year ago and found it under the steps in the ground, cleaned it up, and it worked just fine. Yeah. The Triad Lock, their knives are super robust. You're never going to have one fail. Do have to say, though, compression lock's up there. But the fact is, do you need a lock to be that strong? Probably not. If you're using your knife properly for what it was designed for, you're not going to have a failure. So, and if you guys have not hit the little thing that allows you to like the video, please do so. Knives have changed my life. Got into ballast songs, then into folders. Now I'm going to school to become a machinist. Couldn't be happier. What's your opinion on MagnaCut or 14C20? And I see a lot of... I don't. Okay, I did a whole video about this. So, scalping your TP. Go find the video I did. I did a whole video about me being over the super steels. Completely over a lot of them. MagnaCut's a good steel. It is. MagnaCut's a good steel. It's just not a steel for me. It doesn't do what I want. I'd much rather take... I get upset when companies don't have knives offered in 14C20N. 14C28N, and people have argued with me, no, Sandvik didn't, like that wasn't designed for knives. Sandvik on their website specifically says that they designed 14C28N and 12C to be used in cutting implements and knives. It's what it was made for. You don't very often find a steel that was custom made for making knives, and very rarely do they wind up being crappy. I would much rather have a knife in 14C28N than a lot of other steels. S90V, love S90V. RWL 34, I love it. 14C28N, absolutely incredible. It's one of the best steels out there. And people keep chasing these super steels, and they overlook things that absolutely are incredible. Funny how people just wanted generic low-end cutlery stainless steels all along. Designed to be heat-treated on large-scale production as well. Exactly. You don't have near the inconsistencies. 154 CM's not bad. I don't like CPM 154, the powdered version, for the same reason that I don't like MagnaCut. The grain structure's too fine. You don't have as many of the, I don't know how you want to say it, the large carbides. The carbides are smaller just because of the grain structure and everything. So you get these smaller carbides. Yes, they are more consistent. They just don't seem to take the edge that I want. The aggressive, nasty, bitey, like, oh my God, I don't even want to touch that kind of edge. Do they get sharp? Do they get nasty sharp? Yeah. But the finer the grain structure, the less aggressive the cut. The finer the grain structure, the more you got to stay down in the coarser grit edges. So 20 CV with my heat treat, I can take to pretty much any, I can take it all the way up to 64 Rockwell, and I can take it to any grit I want. If I want to go to 8,000 grit, it's still going to have that bite to it because of the carbides. But it doesn't have the super fine grain structure that you get in MagnaCut or some of the other really fine grain structure steels. Yes, they're more consistent. Yes, there's going to be less chances of inclusions and like big clumps of undissolved carbides in your steels that you're going to see and could make, and they could have a tear out, and then you've got a hole. But as we've seen with Survive Knives, whether you like the owner guy, whether you like him or not, he's not wrong. I had problems with 20 CV. It's powdered steel. I had problems with it where I had the same issues he was having with dark spots in the blade, undissolved carbides, inclusions, and things like that. How much do you like fixed blades? I love fixed blades. I have boxes of fixed blades here at the house. I have more fixed blades than I could carry. Even if I carried a fixed blade 3 times a week, it would take me a year to get through all my knives. I could not carry one fixed blade a week and then get through them. I've got way more than that. So Nitro V is not a bad steel. Nitro V takes a very good edge if it's the edge you're looking for. Nitro V is another one of those steels. Nitro V was made for use in razors. It's an alteration on a steel that was made for razors. Hey, what's up, Native Wildman? Long time no see. What's my favorite fixed blade? The one I designed. The stonefish or the sea snake. Has to be because I designed them. I have a TRC knife here, Tyler. I have the TRC M1SL here. Tyler, you need to go find the video I did on it. Why are they keeping this knife company secret? Like, I did a video about TRC knives. Can I show it? Oh, Jesus, you guys are gonna make me get up and move. I'm in my living room. I'm on my day off. I was doing this. This was not supposed to be like me showing you guys a bunch of knives, but yeah, we'll go out here. Yeah, I got over 3,000 videos up, guys. If there's a brand out there, I've probably done a video about it. TRC out here in the studio is right here. This is, I can't show you either of my knives. My knives are out for review. My knife design. TRC M1SL. Probably one of the best ground fixed blade knives I've ever had come in. My contention with this is they ran the steel a little soft. If you're going to pay the premium for 20 CV or M390, I don't think you should run it as soft as they did because they ran this one at 60 to 61. I would prefer 60, 62, 63-ish, maybe 61, 62. That's a little softer than what I would want. I haven't done anything with it to be certain as to whether it is soft. I haven't cut anything with it. That knife hasn't cut anything yet. I just did some first impressions. But I'm going to tell you, having made knives in basically that's M390, 20 CV is what I made knives in. It's basically the same steel as M390. There's some minor differences, but I mean, it's a very, very close analog to it. And I was running mine at 64 to 65 Rockwell when I was doing custom. Now, don't forget that was one knife at a time. I was not doing production heat treat. I was not doing any more. I think the most I ever did was 3 blades at a time because I wanted the consistency and all that stuff because the more blades you do, the less chance that you're going to have an accurate final heat treat. So a lot of times I do 1, no more than 3 at a time when I was doing custom heat treat, custom knives. One of the complaints that people are making about this knife is they believe that that Microtech runs their knives a little soft. I have not seen it, but I also have only ever had knives from I'm sorry, Microtech. I've only ever had knives from them in LMAX until I bought this. This is the first knife I've ever had from Microtech that was not in LMAX. Their LMAX is very good. This is their new proprietary M390 blend that they did with Bowler. I finally just had to sharpen this, and I have been carrying this daily for a very, very long time. Like since it came in, it's been in my pocket constantly since it came in. If you guys see one of my shorts that is the pocket drop videos, regardless what knives you see on the counter, that one is also in my pocket. I just don't show it anymore because I think people got tired of seeing it. So I carry this every day religiously. It never, well, no, that's not true. There was a few days it did leave my pocket and stayed in its case. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to give you guys about another 15 minutes before I shut this down. Hi, what would it be a replacement for a Benchmade AFO? Nice. Losing about 100 Benchmade. My favorite was. I don't know what the Benchmade AFO is. I don't like Benchmade knives, so I couldn't accurately tell you. Let me look up. Yes, that says I will butt fuck your soul. Benchmade AFO. I've never seen it. Oh. What would be a good replacement for that? Fucking just about anything. That is, I mean, I'm sorry if you, I'm not trying to like disparage your choice in knives. I'm just saying like that's fucking a Hogue Deca. Is it an auto? Is this an out the side auto? Let's see here. It's an auto? I don't know. Like, I'm not a big fan of autos to begin with. Like, out the sides are definitely better than out the fronts. Looking at it, a Hogue Deca. I mean, it's really similar blade shape to Hogue Deca. I mean, I would say, me personally, what's a good alternative to a Benchmade and then insert name, and I'm going to tell you any other knife because I just don't like Benchmade. Spyderco, okay, Spyderco prices have went up. Now, we were talking to somebody about like PM2s and the price going up, and they're over $200 now. I have to say, like, and I fall into this trap too. We get upset when knife companies raise prices, but you got to remember, the price, like people got upset because the price of the Sebenza, in their opinion, skyrocketed. But when you really looked at it, it didn't go up that much. It really didn't go up that much. When you look at the astronomical rise in the price of everything else, it's really unfair for us to look at a knife company and say that they shouldn't raise prices. Now, there's a big difference between what I'm talking about with the nominal, maybe $50 price raise in this knife over the last few years, and what Benchmade is doing. Benchmade is doing, I'm telling you, if you guys haven't watched, Jeremy over at the Quartering talks about what's going on with McDonald's. McDonald's had their most profitable year in history last year. And they are now charging you for bags, and they're charging, they got rid of the cheapest thing on their menu, which was a free refill. Now you can't get free refills when it's like 2 cents per, like that is the biggest markup on anything in the world is fountain drinks at a goddamn fast food store. And if you look at what McDonald's has done and how their prices has went crazy, then you have to equate companies like Spyderco. That's a sensible increase. Increase of the cost of getting materials, the cost of materials, all of that has went up. The price of gas has went up. Therefore, getting materials shipped to them, the prices went up. The price of shipping has went up. All that has went up, right? That's a sensible one. What Benchmade has done is ridiculous. And I am just curious how Microtech has managed to buck the trend and stay profitable and drop their prices. I said it, $302 for this knife. That's what I paid. I bought this, $302 from a vendor, and that's $150 less than I paid for my first Benchmade in 2015. What was this? I'm glad I don't drink soda anymore. Guys, I pretty much quit drinking. I've had a couple beers, but like I don't have any alcohol here at the house anymore. Any Benchmade I have is from the 90s. I can't get behind Benchmade. They're just, I guarantee they're having their most profitable years yet. So yeah, I mean, Native Mile, is that all Bench? I would not, you could not, like, I wouldn't take a Benchmade. I have a Benchmade that was a gift. That's the only reason I have it. If I owned any Benchmades, the same as if I owned any Hinderers. I'm so upset with both of those companies that if I owned any of those knives, I would get rid of them. I got rid of a Hoback because, well, I don't like Jake Hoback. I don't like Jake Hoback for a few reasons. One of them is the thing with Jason Browse. But I didn't like Jake Hoback before he did the whole thing with allowing his knives to be sold as American made when he knew they were made in China. I only own one Benchmade. It's discontinued. Fixies, I've had it for almost 10 years. I have a 940 that was a gift. You know what? The only thing, I said this in yesterday's live feed, the only thing I used that Benchmade 940 for, the only thing, size comparison. I use it for size comparison because it's a very well-known knife. So, guys, I'm going to get off here. I do want to enjoy the rest of my day off. I'm going to play some video games and stuff. I didn't wake up till almost midnight. I work nights, so this is my evening. This would be like my Sunday evening. I mean, in the 90s, unless you collected, nobody ever heard of them. What games am I playing right now? I'm going to probably play the RoboCop game just because it's a fun game and it doesn't require any thought. I don't know. I started a new game of Red Dead Redemption 2. That's probably my favorite game of all time. I'll probably play that for a little bit. I just restarted it, so I'm at the very beginning in Chapter 2. I just came off the mountain and stuff like that. So, I don't know. It just depends on how I feel. I may just go watch a movie. I don't know. Todd, you have the runs as well. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, I read that wrong. Todd's poops. So yeah, and if you guys haven't dropped a like, please just drop a like. Like just tell me that you like what I did, just a little bit, with my big meat hooks for hands. Check out the Ruthless People for Ruthless People. Is that the okay? Wait, Ruthless People, is that the one with was that the one with Roseanne Barr? What was that? I can't remember. Somebody commented, I got a comment on Instagram of somebody that followed me on Instagram after watching the live feed I did, and I got a DM. They're like, bro, like, I've heard you talk about your hand size in the video. Oh, Bette Midler and Danny DeVito. I have watched that. It's really good. That's a really, really good movie. Yeah, I have seen that. I've seen that. But I had my PM2 in my hand, and the guy was like, bro, like you've talked, like I've heard you talk in some videos about how big your hand was. Like, I caught your first live feed. He goes, that's a PM2, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you had the PM2, not the PM3. I was like, yeah. And he was like, it disappeared in your hand. He was like, holy shit. And I was like, well, this is the military. This is the full-size military. And it's not that much of it sticking out at the back. And he was like, what in the fuck? A couple questions. Maybe you can answer them someday in the future. Okay, I'll tell you what, Josh. Ask it now. I'll stick around long enough for that. What your question was. because I can tell you, I'm friends with Jason. You have a mint vendetta. I got a couple questions about it. Any thoughts on the CGRB AR PM9 steel? Heard a bunch about it at Blade Show. I don't really care. I had a bunch of people like, when are you going to apologize because you were pushing AR PM9 steel? I was like, why would I apologize? I didn't make the steel. I went off of what everybody else said, but I wasn't one of those people like, oh, I knew there was something about it. I knew there was something up. And I was like, no, you fucking didn't. If you knew, you would have said it 2 years ago when you did your videos about how good it was. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. They came out and said that it was kind of a miscommunication. You have to remember, they have a publicity team and they have a production team, and a lot of the publicity guys that do the publication and thing like that and naming of things don't speak Chinese. Miscommunication. And the fact is that spray deposition versus powder deposition is a very close thing. And even the fact that everyone said that, oh boy from Knife Steel Nerds, God damn it, I can't think of his name right now. He said it's probably just a miscommunication. Oh, I don't know. You'd have to look on the secondary market, Josh. So if ARPM9 was a good steel and you liked it a year ago, just because you come to find out that it's spray deposition versus powder deposition, it's a sprayed metallurgy versus a powdered metallurgy, which are very similar. So there's one step missing in spray deposition versus powder deposition. So they melt it and they spray it out, right? And they just spray it out and allow it to accumulate and deposit it that way, right? Finer grain structure, it's more consistent steel than what you get with just like your traditional style steels that are just like forged steel that just is poured and rolled and hot rolled. The only step that is missing between those two is powdered metallurgy is sprayed through a liquid nitrogen spray, and it's cooled to a powder and then deposited as a powder as opposed to droplets of hot steel. If I understood Laren's explanation of it correctly, that's the difference. So, like, in all honesty, Laren honestly said, hey, it's, you know, there's some things about the composition, but, you know, as a reviewer, I can only go off of what I say. It's still a very good steel. It's still a very good steel. And if you like it, you like it. But if you're one of those people that came out like, oh, I knew there was something up with it, I never really liked it. I'm like, really? Because I can go back and watch the video you did about that steel saying it's one of the best new steels to hit the market. Like, I remember the video because guess what? I watched it and I've got a very good memory. The big issue is with the misnaming, and the thing that was definitely stated was, Laren specifically said it could have been miscommunication. Now, I work with Artisan Cutlery and CGRB Cutlery. I have knife designs with them. And I'm friends with those people. And they were like, they were as surprised as the rest of us to find out that when they reached out, like, yes, is this how it's done? Or like, yeah. And they're like, well, that's not powdered. That's not powdered metallurgy. It's a little different. And Artisan came out and they made a very good response, which was the proper response. They apologized. They explained what happened. And it was right in line with what Laren thought was happening. Here's the thing. I prefer the ARRPM9 version of my knife to the much more expensive one. I prefer ARRPM9, even if it's not powdered metallurgy. I prefer the ARRPM9 steel to S35VN. It does things better with what I would want. I like the ARRPM9 because it's very very easy to strop back up, and it's very consistent on its edge. It takes a nice edge. It's easy to sharpen. It holds a fairly decent edge. For as easy as it is to sharpen, it holds that edge longer than you would expect, and stropping it back from the brink is way easier than other steels. It is an alternative to D2, but it's not even close in composition. It's really close to 9CR. Like, I'm gonna say it's really close to 9CR. But there are things that happen in steels where, like, even if it is very close in composition, your end result after heat treat is different when you wouldn't expect it to be. Small little changes in a steel can have big results on the backside. No, I'm saying I'm not a big fan of S35VN from most companies. Artisan and CJ their S35VN is very good. I have some of their knives. We Knife Company's S35VN is really good. I personally don't like a lot of the S35VN because it's another one of those steels that, like, you got to stay lower in the grit to account for the fine grain structure and the smaller carbides. One of the things that I don't like, and people misconstrue what I say, is I don't like a lot of the super steels, not so much that you can't get them to do what I want. Like, a coarser edge will do it. I'm inclined to stay closer to the 400 to 600 grit area on some steels to get that aggressive edge I want. Then there's some steels like 14C28N that I can take up and get that beautiful shiny edge and still have the aggressive edge I want, right? And so when I look at when I look at a steel, that's what I look at. Like, I like a good polished edge. I like to be able to take something up above 1,000 grit. I think it's more attractive. I think you get a little bit less friction even with the toothy edge. I think that a polished edge does have a tendency to hold a little bit longer because of the less friction you have on it. But if it's really fine and you lose the aggressiveness, then I have to go back down in grit. So there's nothing wrong with S35VN. I just find that it gets slick at the higher grits and does not give me the aggressive edge that I'm looking for that I can get in some other steels at a higher grit, like M390 and 20CV. They will still give you an aggressive toothy edge at higher grit. So even if it's chemically 9CR or whatever, you're getting a performance bump over 9CR. Yeah, and there are some other changes in the composition. There's some other things to it, like I think there's some cobalt and some other things are added. I watched the majority of Laren's video, but Laren, here's the thing. Laren is so intelligent that, like, even though I'm not a dummy, there's a lot of that kind of it's over my head where I'm like, well, I don't understand why that even matters, to tell you the truth. But the fact is, if I like a steel, I like a steel. I don't really give a shit about the marketing. Does Spyderco still make the Civilian? Yes, they do. And they also make the Matriarch too. So if you, Enclave Dave, if you like the Civilian, you may find the cheaper version, which is the Matriarch 2, which is done in FRN handles. It's done based on the same size profile as a Endura when it comes to handle side and stuff like that. You may find that to be a better knife for you. So I would just look at it. I have the Matriarch 2, and I have handled the Civilian. I personally prefer the Matriarch 2. There's another option if you do like the larger version. The Black Talon from Cold Steel is a very similar design to the Civilian. So, and Spitfire, while you're here, I have not even opened that box that you sent me. I've been so busy, I haven't even gotten into it. I'm still trying to get through stuff that has been here for months and months and months and months and months. So I haven't even cracked into that yet. It's still sealed. It's sitting next to my workbench. I know. It's just been hectic. And I'm working a lot of overtime. Like I'm working tonight. Tonight I work a regular shift. Then I have a 7 to 7. So a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and an 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. And then I think I have to work one more 12. I think I have 3 12s this week. So been working a lot of overtime. So I just haven't had time. I get limited amount. I filmed a bunch of videos last night. I haven't even edited them yet. So I only got like 1 day a week to film. It's hectic, especially with wife and kid in Japan. I don't have anybody that can do like, so the time that I do have where I would be filming typically, I'm doing all the stuff like laundry, cleaning up after the dog, cleaning up the house, you know, getting all my meals ready for work and stuff like that. So all the shopping, and this is ridiculous. And our washing machine is broken. Guys, there's 42 of you. If you have not dropped a like, you can hit that little 3-dot thing, drop that down and hit a like. I'm gonna give you guys 10 more minutes. We'll just do a full 2 hours, 120 minutes. It's been 110 minutes. I owe you crayons. And them bitches are expensive these days. Sun's getting ready to come up. Sun's getting ready to come up here in the San Diego area. Titanium Justin. Why, hello to you. Titanium Justin, is this the first time you've been on one of my live feeds or on my channel? Is Seki a steel? No, Seki's a city. Seki City, Japan. I've been to Seki City, Japan. I've driven through Seki City, Japan several times. When we lived in the Tokyo area with my wife and daughter, or I'm sorry, my wife and daughter. When I lived up in the Tokyo area with my wife, we would go down to her parents' house in southern Japan and drive through the Seki City area. And I've taken the bullet train through Seki City. The dog has made a mess out here, but I think it's going to be a beautiful morning. I have a nice yard, guys. I spent a lot of time at that bench. Well, I did before I started working nights, but that's typically where I would wake up and have my morning coffee. Speaking of coffee, Coffee Brand Coffee, this is 100% a shameless plug to make more money. I have a discount link in the description of my videos. If you want some of the best coffee you are going to get, that'd be where I would go. Roasted on demand. You don't have to worry about like political shit. They're not going to support stuff you don't agree with. Like if you agree with Pride Month, that's great. If you don't agree with Pride Month, that's great. But if you don't agree with something, you don't want to give that money to a company that is going to support the things you don't want. So you're saying you're Benchmade? No. I'm not saying I'm Benchmade. But I do make money when you guys purchase the coffee, and I'm just saying, like, I don't take those, like, I only take affiliates and things, and I only provide you guys links to things that I see value in. And the fact is, if you guys don't believe that I see the value in it, let's go out here to the kitchen. If you don't think that I see the value in it, well, look here. Coffee Brand Coffee, Roaster's Choice, Coffee Brand Coffee, Roaster's Choice, Coffee Brand Coffee, Roaster's Choice. I mean, I don't get that shit for free. I have a SOG knife that says Seki Japan. Yeah, it's Seki City. A lot of the SOG knives were made in Seki City. A lot of the Spydercos. Let's see. Let's look. Do I have my, where is my police model? It's in one of these rolls. No, somebody asked me last night what my favorite knife was, and it was back here, but it was behind the green screen, and I didn't want to go back here. Is it in this one? Is this the roll with the Spydercos in it? Let's see. No, that's not the one with the Spydercos in it. Let's open this one up. This is the one. I believe that both of these are going to say Seki City, Japan on them. Let's see. Since that's Hitachi, yep, Seki City, Japan. That's the one that's in ZDP 189. And this one is also Seki City, Japan on my police model. So there's a lot of knives that are made in Seki City, Japan. Seki City, Japan has been the hub of steel manufacturing, knife manufacturing in Japan for a long time. And I mean, we're talking before electricity, before trains, before people weren't cutting people in half with swords. Seki City was a hub of steel production and things like that. So a lot of sword making and a lot of things like that in Seki City. Also Kagoshima, Kumamoto area, things like that. So it's been a hub of like the knife and sword and steel industry for a while. I think that's where Hitachi has a lot of their steel made, like their Hitachi Blue Steel and things like that are made in Seki City. Spyderco has a lot of. When did they start putting police on the Spyder? So that's the Spyderco police model, and from the day they ever released that knife, the first version, like the original police, had it branded on the blade. Like I remember when this knife came out. When this knife was first released, I saw pictures of it. It was marked as the police. It has had that emblazoned on it since day one. Now, there are a lot of the versions that don't anymore. Like the K390 version, the full flat grind versions. But if you get the original, which is the stainless steel press fit, if it didn't have it on it, I would strongly question whether you got an original or not. There are some versions that don't have it, but if you had this configuration, it would have had police marked on it. It definitely from day one had the Spyderco, the Spyder on it, and police. As long as I can remember, they may have had some at some point that didn't, but I have never seen this configuration of it with the saber grind, with the swedge, not the full flat grind, the press fit stainless. Never had one that had that unless you got the pig model, which I forget, that was released as a sprint run, and it was something to do with the police association. It was the pig model, and it said PIG on it. I've never seen one of the original police models that did not have it emblazoned on it somehow that said police. But like I said, I do know that the FRN handle ones, do not have police emblazoned on them. They're more sterile on their blade. This thing is probably one of the smoothest washer knives you're going to find. It's been broke in. I've been carrying it. I've carried that basically daily. It had the Spyder, but it didn't say police. You know what? You can go through. Spyderco has got a site. There's a site linked to there's a link to their site, how to identify a fake. And we identified that there is a fake in my buddy's collection that he paid full price for at a knife show from a reputable vendor because they got. You can go and you can look at the hallmarks of what you would expect, and you can look at like how the Spyder looks and how the feet are and all that stuff. And you can go through and you can do an in-depth dive. And if you go and look, they'll show all the different variations of the Spyderco police and what the markings were. So you definitely can go look and figure out whether you have an authentic one or not. And I realized that my strawberries that I set out for my dessert after lunch never got eaten. They're still in the bowl out here. So you definitely can do that. Spyderco has those tools available. There's a lot of knife forums where you can figure out whether you got an authentic one or not. The best thing to do is to just buy through reputable vendors, but I know if it's something you've had for years, you could have got. Cold Steel and Spyderco are some of the most knocked off brands in the knife industry you're going to find. They really are. My knife got knocked off. My knife design got, the one fixed blade that I did definitely got a knockoff version that was on Amazon. I reached out to them and they're like, well, you're not the, you have no stake in this. Why you can't report this? And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, only the company that makes the item can do it. I was like, I'm the designer. Like, I would know if my design was, I would know if my design had been knocked off. You know what I mean? And so I was like, fine. And I had to reach out to We Knife Company. I was like, hey, there is a knockoff Stonefish fixed blade on Amazon right now. So guys, it's been 120 minutes. It's been 2 hours. I wasn't even planning on doing this today. I have got to go. I want to get off of here. I want to FaceTime and tell my daughter good night before she goes to bed because it's about 9 p.m. in Japan. So I'm going to get off of here. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hit the like button on your way out. There's 3 little dots where you can go in and it brings up a little spot where you can like and share and subscribe and do all those things. So I will talk to you guys later. I'm going to enjoy my sunrise. I'm going to make my supper, and then I'm going to go to bed and go to work tonight. Bye.